What's up, family, and welcome back to another Bible study with an ex-pastor. Um, as I think I stress this on everyone. I'm so stoked that you all are still hanging out with me for these sessions. These are super fun for me, super therapeutic, and ultimately, I really do think these types of sessions are helpful for a lot of people. So your support is greatly appreciated. And kind of I do like to give this caveat is that these sessions are not a theological deep dive. I am not one of those people who I don't have an attachment to biblical literature as right or wrong because I don't have this attachment to any literature outside of you having a personal relationship and affiliation with the author. Any interpretation that we give to these texts, in my opinion, is going to be highly subjective. So almost everything that I'm going to be sharing throughout these sessions is highly subjective because I don't know the writers. No one does. And and that's the reason I say this isn't a theological deep dive. And another reason is because this is not a theological conversation. I'm not engaging these Bible studies from the perspective that God is a real thing, or from the perspective that God had, or that a divine being had anything to do with this book. We are engaging it as humans, reading through it, looking at what it's saying, and thinking about how we feel about that based off of our own observations. This is my old phone. It's all cracked up, but for whatever reason, the volume is not down. So I'm gonna cut the volume down on that. And it looks like my friend George is messaging me, so I will make sure to reach out to him when I get done with this. All right, so we've been in the book of Genesis. We are almost through. Last week we did two chapters, chapters 33 and 34. There are, I believe, 42 chapters. I could be wrong. I don't want to mess that up, but it's not much more. It might be 52. Not many chapters. Not many more chapters to go. We're almost through, and the stories in Genesis, like the ending of Genesis was more enjoyable for me when I was a preacher than the beginning of Genesis. The stories seem to have a little bit better flow, and that's primarily because the stories are wrapping up and tying into that next book, if you will, which is Exodus. And again, as I always say, Genesis wrap up is kind of the preface, the prerequisite, the prequel to what takes place in the book of Exodus. So today we're going to be picking up with Genesis chapter 35. Before we do, like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the alert notification bell, consider joining our community either on Patreon or through the YouTube membership program, consider volunteering, consider financially supporting, and check out our merch. All right, I did that fairly quick, didn't I? Normally, I think it does take me like 15 minutes to do these introductions in most cases, but I don't know. Is there? It's because I'm seeing now I've only been doing this for 3 minutes, so now I feel like I have to add something else to the introduction. Like, what am I missing? Oh, the ex-pastor call-in show. We're going to be launching that in July. First Sunday in July. And from that moment on, it'll be the first Sunday of every month. And if the show goes well, hey, maybe it'll be every Sunday. I don't know. We have to talk to our partners and see. We also have a group therapy conversation coming up June the 27th. I may have that date wrong. Not 100% sure, but I'm sure we already have it set up on YouTube, so you can check the date there. That time is going to be 6 p.m. Central Standard Time, and of course we have Sunday sessions. Don't forget our Sunday sessions. This week we're going to be closing out our How to Human conversation. And then next week, we're going to be jumping into a new conversation called Please Don't Stop the Music. And it's really just going to be us as a community having a conversation about ways to find harmony in a life that can often be chaotic. And I think it'll actually be our first conversation that's like that. Our first conversation that we had from Sunday sessions was called The Thesis of Secular Community, where we had discussions about how to actually build secular community. We talked about frameworks, moving from concept to community. And in the second series, we've been in how to human, just these conversations about what does it mean to be human, not from a definitive perspective, but really more so from an explorative perspective, investigating and exploring what it means to be human by investigating and exploring how other humans human. So it's been those type of conversations. This one will be the first one that I think those conversations have definitely been more community focused. This one will be a little more individual focused, but of course it will tie into community as well. Okay. All right, I think I've said enough now. We're 5 minutes in. Let's jump in. We're picking up in Genesis chapter 35. And the name of this chapter, according to this particular tagline, is Jacob moves to Bethel. So let's see what's going on here. Verse 1, then God said to Jacob, arise, go up to Bethel and live there. Make an altar there to God, who appeared to you when you fled from your brother Esau. You know, listen, God does intervene and talk quite a few times throughout this story. It seems interesting to me, and I know that this is a superimposition. I like that. This is me superimposing my understanding about God on the text, and this particular understanding of God cannot be pulled from the text that we've been in so far. Because you would think after the fiasco between Cain and Abel that God would have a vested interest in reconciling the relationships of brothers. And in this case, God doesn't really seem to be interested in reconciling the relationship of Jacob and Esau, but nor was God interested in reconciling the relationship of Isaac and Ishmael. And so it just kind of goes down here, you know. But so Jacob said to his household and to all who were with him, remove the foreign gods which are among you and purify yourselves and change your garments. Now, and this is something that we've seen kind of happen throughout the entirety of Genesis for the most part, is that the ideology that we get of God in later books isn't exactly cemented yet in Genesis. So this statement right here would be an absolute intolerable statement in other books, in the sense that they've had these foreign gods are idols with them for a long time. But it is important that you notice that these gods are not called idols here. All right? They're not called idols here. They're just called gods. Again, and I think, it's just my subjective view on it, is that the idea of monotheism is not something that is concretized in the book of Genesis. It's not something that's even concretized in the book of Exodus, Leviticus, Deuteronomy. The idea of monolatry, or monolatry, however you're wanting to pronounce that, is introduced in the book of Exodus, that you shall only worship one God. But it does not become a practice into much later books. And so we're seeing some of the same things right here in the book of Genesis, where this idea, like, they've had these foreign gods among them for a while. As a matter of fact, we read it together when Rachel took, her father's foreign gods and brought them with her. And now there are apparently other foreign gods that are with them too. And Jacob at this moment is, finally making this statement, hey, let's go ahead and get rid of the foreign gods and let's purify ourselves and let's change our garments. So this is a step in that direction, but it is not cemented in a way that is cemented in later books, in the sense that nobody has to die here. Nobody's getting killed because these foreign gods are here, and these foreign gods aren't just shattering all over the place as they do happen in later books. All right, so verse 3, and let's arise and go up to Bethel, and I will make an altar there to God, who answered me on the day of my distress and has been with me wherever I have gone. Now, we've been reading through Jacob's story. Oh yeah, I think I just slipped up on something. We've been reading through Jacob's story, and honestly, and even when I was younger, reading through stuff like this was, I'm like, okay, I don't understand, because it says the God who answered me on the day of my distress. Which day of that, and which day was that, and what was the answer? Because so far, the majority of the things we've seen take place in Jacob's life, Jacob has been responsible for manipulating, manufacturing these types of outcomes. And we've literally seen Jacob manufacture an outcome and read the narrative without God intervening at all, only for Jacob to come back later and say, oh, God is the one did this. But then when we hear Jacob's testimony of what God did, it doesn't actually match what Jacob did. So things like this, like, I don't know. And if I knew the author, I would ask, like, did you write Jacob like this on purpose? Like, am I reading this the right way, that Jacob is really just this grifter, this liar that is scamming people and that is using the name of God just when it suits him and when it benefits him? And he says, yes, it was God who answered me. And to think something like that isn't such a stretch, especially when you consider how God is often used in modern times and in history. So like, it would track that this person would actually not be having any type of divine encounters, but because they know that other people not only believe but prioritize divine encounters, that this person would then use the presumption of divine encounters to manipulate others. And to me, so far, I can kind of read some of that into Jacob's story. So, verse 4. I didn't think we would have these many breakdowns in these few verses. So they gave Jacob all the foreign gods which they had, and the rings which were in their earrings. And Jacob hid them under the oak which was near Shechem. I'm getting flashbacks of what happened at Shechem, to Shechem, and all of the men at Shechem. And maybe that's where some of these foreign gods are coming from too. Maybe it's the you remember the women and the children that they took after they killed all of the men. Maybe it's those women and children whose foreign gods they are making them get rid of. Which, bam, we're back at colonialism, in a sense, or imperialism. But either way, just really destroying and attacking, assaulting the humanity of other people. So you have this imaginary friend and they have an imaginary friend too, and you tell them, nope, because I killed your folk and I took you, you can no longer have your imaginary friends. You can only acknowledge my imaginary friend. This was literally the experience of Africans and indigenous Americans, right? And Australians, Aborigines, and I'm sure others, right? Because obviously, if they're writing about it, the authors are writing about it at this time. Even if I don't believe that these stories are a reflection of something that accurate, or an accurate depiction of something that actually happened, the fact that these stories exist in the literary zeitgeist around these times does mean that these things are likely a reflection of ways that people actually did. And I mean, and I say that as if that needs to be demonstrated. We know that, But yeah, so that's kind of going on. Verse 5. As they journeyed, there was a great terror upon the cities which were around them, and they did not pursue the sons of Jacob. So they gave Jacob all the foreign gods which they had, and Jacob hid them under the oak. And as they journeyed, there was a great terror upon the cities, a terror of God, a great terror upon the cities which were around them, and they did not pursue the sons of Jacob. I'm not really understanding the transition here. As they journey, maybe this is why they're journeying to Bethel. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. As they journeyed, I'm guessing to Bethel, because he took the pit stop to, hey, before we go to Bethel, which Bethel is translated house of God, or some people translated house of bread, which therefore God is bread and bread is provision. And so therefore God is provision. And ultimately, when you you can read the entire biblical narrative by replacing God with provision, or the aspect of provision, because that's a part of our evolutionary journey sociologically. So Jacob came to Luz, that is Bethel, which is in the land of Canaan. See where it's at? He and all the peoples who were with him. All right, so where's Bethel at? Bethel, which is apparently formerly known as Luz, is in where? The land of Canaan. Who is from Canaan? The Canaanites. All right. So, um, and he and all the people that were with him. Then he built an altar there and called the place El Bethel, because there God had revealed himself to him when he fled from his brother. Now Deborah, Rebekah's nurse, died, and she was buried below Bethel under the oak, and it was named Alan Bakuth. Okay, somebody please tell me why the fuck I should give a fuck about Deborah. Where she come from? I mean, and literally, when I saw Deborah, I was like, wait a minute, Deborah is here way too early. Deborah's a judge, and it said Rebecca's nurse. And I was like, oh, this is some random Deborah. This is not an important Deborah to the story. This is a random Deborah. But she's dead, and she's buried under the oak for whatever reason, and they thought that was a great bookend to this particular section. Obviously, I disagree. All right, so then God appeared to Jacob again when he came from Padan Aram, and he blessed him. Padan Aram shows up a lot, doesn't it? God said to him, your name is Jacob. You shall no longer be called Jacob, but Israel shall be your name. So he called him Israel. And that is, oof. In the churches I was in, we love this part. We love the idea of Jacob having his name changed. You shall no longer be called Jacob, because there was this, names were important, and Jacob's name is like trickster. It is usurper, this person who takes what is not his, this person who takes what they are not in line for. And I've normally preached that from the sense of Jacob taken from his brother, but then you also see later on, when you pay close to the text, that Jacob literally manipulates almost everybody he comes in contact with, which again, he gets it honestly. He's running some of the same tricks that his daddy ran and that his granddaddy ran. And of course, his mama taught him a lot too. But it was always powerful that God is going to take you from being a trickster and to make you the type of person that anybody who fights with you, God will fight with them. That's kind of how we preach that. But then when you really listen to that, what that says is that God is on the side of the tricksters. And and again, we demonstrated this last week as well, how the God and the God as we perceive it in the text is very much on the side of liars, and so God seems to be on the side of the bad guys. Now, to clarify in this, and I think we did this when we first opened up the book of Genesis, is that one thing that I've shared that I know many believers would disagree with, and of course I don't give a fuck, but it almost sounded like Super Mario Brothers at the end when you get to the castle. But anyway, damn, I forgot what I was saying because I went to the Mario Brothers and now I'm stuck there. It was something maybe when I'm watching it in the premiere, I'll remember. But anyway, so but Israel shall be your name. So he called him Israel. God also said to him, I am God Almighty. So now we're getting into the Almighty God. Be fruitful and multiply. A nation and a multitude of nations shall come from you, and kings shall come from you. Okay. I have so many thoughts on that one, but I'm going to leave it alone for now. And the land which I gave to Abraham and Isaac, I will give to you, and I will give the land to your descendants after you. So I think this is one of those things that Okay, here it is. If you gave the land to Abraham, my grandfather, why do you have to give the land to me? Why wouldn't it have been just a part of my inheritance? Especially when we know that Jacob usurped the inheritance from Isaac. All right. So these are some things that where the math just isn't mathing. And I call this out every time because every time God did it with Isaac too. Every time, hey, I'm God. I'm going to give you the land which I gave to your fathers. So it's like, does everybody keep losing the land? And in some cases, that is the case, especially for later in Jacob's life. They lose the land because of famine. But you also see that Abraham keeps moving because of famine. Isaac moves because of famine. Jacob and his sons move because of famine. Joseph gets into Egypt, who is also getting ready to go through a famine, but he doesn't cause Egypt to have to move. He learns how to manage. Oh, y'all don't want to talk to me. Okay, yeah, that was some preaching flashback right there. But Joseph managed, he learned how to manage, and everybody else did not manage. They stole instead. But I mean, if you built your entire wealth off of thievery, then you've not learned the lessons to maintain the wealth, which is why every generation will typically have to go back and find a way to recollect their wealth. That's just my 2 cents. All right, and the land, okay, so we said that, and I'll give this land to your descendants after you. And that's basically saying, God says, I can't just give one time. You know, I'm not that good. I'm not that good where I can just pick one person to give it to, and then it gets passed down the way that it's supposed to. Can't just give one time. I got to give it to every single one of y'all. Maybe it's because y'all ain't trustworthy. Then God went up from him at the place where he had spoken with him. So Jacob set up a memorial stone in the place where he had spoken with him, a memorial stone, and he poured out a drink offering on it. He also poured oil on it. The drink offerings and the burnt offerings and the smoked offerings and the bird offerings and all the other offerings in the Bible are things are all pagan rituals that Christians seem to selectively ignore or to exhaustively include as no. Because God is involved, it's not pagan. But when you see pagan groups engaging in the same type of rituals, whether in antiquity or in modernity, you say, oh no, that's witchcraft. Like I remember one time I was with a Christian group and we were praying for it to rain. And then I remember in that moment we were praying for it to rain. And I was like, whoa, how are we any different than the Native Americans who we've claimed to be superstitious because they did rain dances? What exactly is the delineation between praying for rain and dancing for rain? How is one less or more or less superstitious than the other? They are absolutely the both the same type of activity with the same type of expected outcome. Therefore, the same superstition. Same superstition. So, yeah. Verse 15. And Jacob named the place where God had spoken with him Bethel. I thought you already did that, bruh. Number one, you did it early in this chapter and you did it earlier in another chapter. But that's the writer's fault. It's not Jacob's fault. And as we do understand, the writers often, I don't want to say writers because when I say writers, it gives off the impression that people got down and wrote this story and just came up with it while they were writing it or was investigating it while they were writing it. And that's not actually how we get the stories in the Bible, at least not according to what's accepted. What's accepted is the way that we get the stories of the Bible is that many of these stories, especially in the Old Testament, were for for decades possibly were oral crafted stories. And I'm being modest by saying decades. It could have been much longer, but were oral stories that were passed down. Now, again, by the same way I said it could have been much longer, it could have also been much shorter. There is not a lot of certainty or there's not a lot of appropriate certainty when it comes to these things. So when we say the writers, we're talking about actually we're talking about the people who originally crafted these stories in oral form, compiled with the people who then took these stories from oral form and put them into written form. So we do know that some of these things are so repetitive because they're coming from those oral traditions. And when things are told, when oral traditions tend to have to be more repetitive to help people retain the information. I just wish the people who was writing it would have just remembered that, okay, this isn't oral anymore. We've already written this part. Let's not write it again. Let's be a little efficient here. As a project manager, efficiency is important to me. Verse 16, then they journeyed on from Bethel, but when there was some distance to go to Ephrath, Rachel began to give birth, and she suffered severe difficulties in her labor. I don't even remember labor. I don't even remember Rachel being pregnant. I wonder, was this a surprise for everybody? Was Rachel a big woman? Because her pregnancy wasn't mentioned here. But I'm just saying. And when she was suffering severe difficulties in her labor, the midwife said to her, "Do not fear, for you have another son." See, it seems like, I don't know. And it came about as her soul was departing, for she died, that she named him Benoni, but his father called him Benjamin. She named him the son of my sorrow, and he named him the son of my right hand. I know the black churches, we've done a lot of good, what I would call good preaching back then. And by good preaching, I just mean it would have got people really excited. But now I'm just like, oh, that's so disrespectful. The last thing she does in her death is to name her son. And she's like, I'm going to name him Benoni. And I get it. It's a fucked up name, son of my sorrow. But this has been the trend for all of the children. And all of a sudden, Jacob, as soon as she dies, it's like, no, fuck that. Change that to Benjamin. Like, God damn, man. Just can't win for losing. Let me stop. So Rachel died and was buried on the way to Ephrath, that is Bethlehem. So Luz is Bethel. Ephrath is Bethlehem. Him. And Jacob set up a memorial stone over her grave. That is the memorial stone of Rachel's grave to this day. Then Israel journeyed on and pitched his tent beyond the Tower of Eder. Funny story here. You might still be able to find these videos on YouTube, but there were years ago, and I'm like, it had to be like 15, 20 plus years ago. The video wasn't originated on YouTube, but it did eventually make it to YouTube, where there was a youth pastor trying to be all, youthy and relevant. And he was preaching about Jacob pitching his tents. And then somehow he mixed his words up and kept saying, pinching his tits. Jacob kept pinching his tits. Somehow that seems like a much more interesting story. All right, so verse 22. And it came about while Israel was sleeping in that land that Reuben went and slept with his father's concubine, Bilhah. And Israel heard about it. Now there were 12 sons of Jacob. Now, I don't know why they said it like that. So Reuben goes in, sleep with his father's concubine. And I'm not sure, y'all refresh my memory. This might be the first time we actually see the word concubine, because I think, I don't remember if Hagar was referred to as a concubine. I know that traditionally we've referred to her as one. What I'm trying to clarify here is whether or not the text referred to her as a concubine, because in this case, it does seem like this would be the first time. But I am sharing a little different now. So there's another way for me to verify. And it's just going to do it easy way. All right, let's see. Don't take too long. Which, I don't know if y'all know, I have a lot of tabs up. 22:4. Okay, so there was a concubine mentioned in verse in chapter 22. So this is the second time that we're seeing the word concubine in the scripture. But in this case, as you see, I was accurate with my memory that Hagar was not referred to as a concubine. I'd be interested to know if that is just convenience. This is just something that happened, or if there is a reason why the word concubine, even though we see multiple wives long before chapter 22 and definitely long before chapter 35, I wonder why that word doesn't come into play into later, and if there's any significance in when it's used and why it's used. So yeah, I'm patting myself on the back for that one, for catching that. But so Reuben sleeps with his dad's concubine. They don't really give us the why here, but this is a thing in the Bible. David's sons do the same thing. One of his sons, I cannot remember his name now, but we'll get there. Absalom, I think it was Absalom that slept with David's wife on top of the palace. Oh man, like if you've never read the Bible as an unbeliever, this shit is awesome. Now let me stop. Okay. So he does this, and then he just ends that sentence with, "Now there were 12 sons of Jacob." And I'm wondering, like, is it because when Israel hears that his sons slept with his wife, is it because he doesn't know which one? Is that why they're saying, and there were 12 sons of Jacob? Because he has to figure out which 12, which one of the 12 did it. And also, like, why is he referenced as Israel here twice, but then concluded referenced as Jacob? Which, just as somewhat of a neurodivergent thinker, I don't always understand why writers do that. If his name is changed, let's use the new name, unless there is another character who still calls him by the old name, and we should only see that old name coming out of the mouths of the other character. But when I see both the new name and the old name coming out of the mouth of the narrator, I feel like there's either something missing that I'm not aware of, or this person just sucks at writing. So I don't know which one it is. All right. So the sons of Leah were Reuben, Jacob's firstborn, then Simeon, Levi, Judah, Issachar, and Zebulun. The sons of Rachel were Joseph and Benjamin. The sons of Bilhah, Rachel's female slave, and okay. So that's what I thought. Bilhah was a slave. Okay, so Bilhah was a slave, but here she's a concubine. And she's Rachel's female slave, but she's Jacob's concubine. That seems like a fucked up relationship. Damn, you belong to them both. Yikes. Okay, so the sons of Bilhah, Rachel's female slave, were Dan and Naphtali, and the sons of Zilpah, Leah's female slave, were Gad and Asher. These were the sons of Jacob who were born to him in Padan Aram. So just maybe they're all concubines, and sometimes the writers like to be specific about it. Verse 27, Jacob came to his father Isaac at Mamre of Kiriath Arba, that is Hebron, where Abraham and Isaac had resided. Now the days of Isaac were 180 years. Then Isaac breathed his last and died, and was gathered to his people, an old man of ripe age, and his sons Esau and Jacob buried him. Okay. This chapter, and when I say this, I am being somewhat facetious, and I'll explain why. But this chapter definitely seems to be all over the place for me. Doesn't seem to tell a cohesive story. Now, with that being said, there's actually a reason why that is. The chapters and verses that we impose on scriptures are somewhat modern impositions. And when I say modern, I don't necessarily mean within the past 100 years, but basically since we've started organizing these scriptures and producing them in the form of a canon, of an authoritative canon. So basically some well-meaning people determine, and I say well-meaning, that's me being modest there, but well-meaning people determine where the chapter breaks are, They also often determine where the punctuations are. They also determine where the capitalizations are, and they also determine what the big idea is. There is a. I wish I would have looked this word up before, or refreshed myself on this word before jumping into this, because there are also quite a few words in the Bible that don't exist outside of the Bible. Obviously, not the English words, but the original Hebraic, Aramaic, or even Greek words. They're words that only appear within the text of the Bible. There, and this isn't unique to the Bible. Other ancient books are like this as well. There is a word that we have to describe words like that, and words like that create a challenge. And the Bible has a bunch of them, because then how can you trust the interpretation? And so now, typically in other books, it's not that big of a deal, because we know these things and we're not treating those books as authoritative or as guides on how to live our lives, treat other people, and govern the world. But because the Bible, we've typically treated it as authoritative and as a guide to govern the world. This fact about the Bible, that there being so many words in it that we can't accurately translate, period, because we don't have a point of reference. Many of the languages that we can translate today, it was only because we were able to find points of references for those languages, the Rosetta Stone being such a case in point. But when you have words that don't appear, when you have a word that is 100% foreign to you and it doesn't appear in any other of the documents that share that language, there is no accurate way to ascertain the meaning of that word. And so when you have the Bible filled with a bunch of words like that, also filled with punctuation impositions that may not have been there, I think we all know um, um, we all know how changing punctuation in a sentence can drastically change its meaning. Even the aspect of capitalizing the G's is incredibly disingenuous. So now your interpretation of scripture of who is the big God and the little God is something that does not exist in the context of the writing. While there may be in the story a God who is considered more important than the other gods, you, as the reader, would never know if you're reading it at somewhat of face value, because you've already been manipulated into believing that everywhere you see the capital G, you're talking about the real God. But the writers had no such, did not have that practice. So these things are somewhat modern impositions, right? I don't know where I went there, but because this is scattered, right? And or it feels scattered, but the truth of the matter is, we may be horribly disconnected from the actual story that is here. We got a little bit more time, so I think we'll try to catch throw in another chapter in this. Doo-doo. And let me close this other window. It's gonna take forever. Oh, nope. And I said that. And let's see how many verses this one has. It has a lot, but I think we can make it because a lot of this seems filler. So let's just see. Verse 36, chapter 36, verse 1. Now these are the records of the generations of Esau, that is Edom. So, those of you, if you've come across the Hebrew Israelites, you will hear quite a bit about the Edomites. And these are, oh man, like I'm not going to lie, like the Hebrew Israelites and the Moors, they aggravate the hell out of me. Like, yikes. Talking about people who've taken it way too far. And there it is. I think that's my problem. I don't have respect for anybody who takes something far without taking it serious. That bothers me because you can almost tell, especially when dealing with the Moors, like you can always tell that the people you are talking to and engaging with have never seriously even pondered the claims they're making. Like, god damn, man, if you're going to take something this far, at least take it that serious. Like, come on now. You're making us look bad out here. No, no. If I believed in such a thing, I'd want to revoke their race card. I would. I would. Now, obviously, I don't believe in such foolishness, but it's fun to say sometimes. Esau took his wives from the daughters of Canaan, as is everybody. That's something that's always weird to me in the Bible. And again, I could be wrong because the place names are all over the place. But it seems like they never leave Canaan. It's like they're always in Canaan, but going back to Canaan, and everybody's getting daughters from Canaan, and everybody lives in Canaan. And it's just different places that have been named different things in Canaan. But whatever. Daughters of Canaan, Ada, the daughter of Elon, the Hittite, and Oholibamah. That's either that's I can either make an Alabama joke about that, or I can make a President Barack Obama joke about that. Depends on where you want to go. Oh, holy Bama, sorry. The daughter of Anna, the granddaughter of Zibeon, the Hivite. Also, base math. Yep. You're not just dealing with classical math anymore. We have base math. Ishmael's daughter, the sister of Nebaioth. Ada bore Eliphaz to Esau, and base math gave birth to Reuel. And Oholibamah gave birth to Jeush, Jalam, and Korah, which we will come back to the sons of Korah later. These are the sons of Esau who were born to him in the land of Canaan. So it looks like right now they are filling us in what's been going on with Esau's life. Let's catch up. Then Esau took his wives, his sons, his daughters, and all his household, and his livestock, and all his cattle, and all his property which he had acquired in the land of Canaan, and went to another land away from his brother Jacob. Separate. Okay? For their possessions had become too great for them to live together, and the land where they resided could not support them because of their livestock. So Esau lived in the hill county of Seir. Esau is Edom. It really wants us to know that Esau is Edom, and that's a part of the reason why the Hebrew Israelite faction has attached themselves to Edom in such a way, to the Edomite ideology in such a way as their enemies. But what I do find interesting here is that contrary to the way that we often interpret these things from a evangelical or fundamental view of Scripture, our preaching of these stories don't often align with the way that the stories are written, and our interpretations of these stories don't often align with the way that they're written. Because I know for me, earlier on, the idea was that there is a chosen side that would be blessed, and then that there's this other side that ultimately would not be blessed, though they would make it and things would be okay. That's supposed to be the demarcation. The demarcation is supposed to be those who have God on their side are supposed to be doing much better than those who do not have God on their side. That was what was preached. That's how we preached the message. That's how I preached the message for years. But that's actually not how it's actually presented in Scripture. I mean, even Scripture declares that God reigns on the just and the unjust. And in those ways, you see that without presupposition or without superimposing your ideologies on the Bible, it could very well be seen that this book is about a God that is hidden in nature, and therefore this book is not about a God that the people know, but this book is about them personifying nature as a God to better tell the story, which is something we still do. We still use phraseology such as Mother Earth without having any attachment to the idea that Earth is actually somebody's mama. Which, I mean, Earth may be somebody's mama. I don't know. I'm not in Earth's business like that. I don't ask Earth about her kids. Sorry. So I said all of that for some reason, I'm sure. You have your own thoughts, I'm sure. So yeah, but so Esau is Edom. And that definitely seems like a plug, like a projection, to let us know, hey, remember this shit. But you do see that their possessions had become too great for them to live together. So, which is interesting because even though Esau was horribly screwed out of his birthright, he seems to be as equivalently wealthy or okay as his brother is, which now makes the whole birthright fiasco like null and void. But not only does that make it null and void, the point we hit in the last chapter is that if God is just going to renew the covenant in every generation to every person, then why the fuck is there even a birthright in the first place? I don't get it. Like what did Esau lose? Now, obviously, I get that this isn't an itemized version of what's happened in Esau's life or what's happened in Jacob's life. This narrative is obviously rushed to get to another point. And as I've stated before, that point is Joseph. But as an author, I'd be interested. And I know we have some other authors who join in on these. So I'd be curious, how do you think Esau's life went after that moment of realizing that his birthright was going to his brother? And then also, how do you reconcile his brother getting the birthright but not getting the birthright, not actually getting the inheritance until much later? And there's a lot of ways to wrestle with that. One of the ways is that you can say, well, it's not that Jacob didn't get his birthright. He forfeited it for 14 years because he was stalled trying to get Rachel because Laban had him caught up. But I'd be really, really interested in the literature. For Esau, I could imagine it as after Esau leaving, watching what his mother and his brother had done, how they had manipulated his father to steal his birthright. I could imagine Esau just kind of leaving and just trying to process that shit, man. Like, what kind of family I got? And maybe after realizing that, maybe Esau realized, you know what? It's just me out here. It's just me. And I'm going to have to pull myself up. And maybe he did that. Maybe Esau has a wonderful story that we've not been let in on it. I don't know. So, verse 9. These then are the records of the generations of Esau, the father of the Edomites. Why he can't be the father of the Esauites? Well, I guess the same reason Jacob is not the father of the Jacobites. So is it possible that the same way Jacob had a conversation with God where God changed Jacob's name to Israel, did God have a encounter with Esau and changed Esau's name to Edom? Edom up. Sorry. These are the names of Esau's son, Eliphaz, the son of Esau's wife, Ada, and Ruel, the son of Esau's wife, Basemath. I'm going to call it that every time. It's probably Basemeth, but I like Basemath better. That just sounds like something cool. Well, the base math of the quantum collapse. No, I can't. I can't even think of enough bullshit words to run that one. Okay, so the sons of Eliphaz were Teman, Omar, Zepho, Gotham, and Kenaz. Timnah was a concubine of Esau's son Eliphaz, and she bore Amalek to Eliphaz. These are the sons of Esau's wife, Ada. I would like to just remind everybody that they told us in the previous chapter that Reuben slept with his dad's concubine for absolutely no reason. They never finished that story. All right, I'm back. Verse 13. And these are the sons of Ruel, Nahath, Zerah, Shammah, and Misa. These were the sons of Esau's wife, Basemath. And these were the sons of Esau's wife, Oholibamah, and the daughters of Anah, the granddaughter of Zibeon. She bore to Esau, Jewish, Jalam, and Korah. We've read these names. I don't know why they're doing this again. These are the chiefs of the sons of Esau. Now, as a younger minister, this shit used to aggravate the fuck out of me. And I'm not blaming the writers here. I will blame my church mentors who basically told me that everything I need to understand about being a pastor and everything I need to understand about being in ministry and everything I needed to understand about being a good Christian person, I can find in scripture. I could not. Because in this case, and this is just me, this might just be something that is relegated to the way that I think and the way that I process information. I am aware of that. But when I am reading something, such as verse 15, and it says, these are the chiefs of the sons of Esau. This is the first time you said any bullshit like this. I don't know what a chief of the son is. I need some insight. In the words of Escape, what I need from you is understanding. Because I don't, I know what chief is, but what is the chief of the sons? But this is a great point here. This is also how you know that modern individuals are not the audience of these writings. Which is, I think most of us know that, or you would think, but there are quite a few people who believe that, no, we're the audience of this. And it's like, no, that's why they're not being as descriptive and informative in a way that would be helpful for modern audiences to reconcile what this may possibly mean. Is because it wasn't meant for modern audiences, not in any way to apply to their lives. So when whoever writes this sentence, these are the chiefs of the sons of Esau, it's my understanding that their expectation is that the audience who is reading this will know what the fuck chiefs of the sons are. Is it like hand of the king? Are you the hand of the father? The sons of Eliphaz, the firstborn of Esau, are Chief Teman, Chief Omar, Chief Zephu, and Chief Kenaz, which, from a sociological perspective, let's back some of this up. If we're going back to the idea that these books are these stories in Genesis are somewhat fabulated, and not in a way, I'm not suggesting purposeful deception here. That could be the case, but that these stories are created to kind of give an explanation of things that are too big to explain in a way that smaller minded people, which we all were at the time, could understand easily. Then what we may be seeing here, what this story may be trying to convey, is the evolution of the chieftain system. And that might have something to do with why, even though there were people who had handmaidens and other wives before we see the word concubine show up in the story, maybe that's the intent of the crafters of this, is to say, at this point in the timeline of this story's development, this is when we started bringing, kind of cementing this as not just handmaiden, but concubine. In other words, adding some legality to these relationships. And in the same way, because we did kind of see the same thing with Cain and Abel, one being agriculture, one being I want to say the other was a hunter, and then we kind of see, I think Cain was a hunter. I may be wrong there, because I don't give a fuck. But then later on, and we see throughout that whole kind of monologue that takes place after Cain is kicked out of wherever the fuck he's kicked out of, and he goes into the land of Nod, the evolution of his family's development, you do see that. And then even by the time we get to Jacob and Esau, we also see that further development into from you have one that lives in tents and one that does not live in tents. You have one that is a hairy warrior type guy, and you have other one that literally defined as civilized, or literally described as the civilized. It says there's a civilized man and there's a hairy man. And so if we look at these from places of fabulation, then we can kind of say that not can, but we can, yeah, we can possibly see that these stories are people trying to explain, and this is a very popular perception, by the way, but that these people are trying to explain how different social structures have formed, and to give them somewhat of a timeline that is related to their own development as a people. I hope that makes sense. And so what we may be seeing here are the authors saying, all right, and at this time in our development, we started having chiefs. Because yes, though while I was being a little bit tongue in cheek about, okay, what the fuck is a chief of the sun? If you're thinking about this from the perspective of the very first chiefdoms, you know, which this would actually be bigger than a chiefdom. What's bigger than a chiefdom? It's not quite a kingdom, and I cannot remember if a chiefdom is bigger than a tribe. I think a tribe may be bigger than a chiefdom. I'm not sure. But if you think about the evolutions, or you try to have this thought experiment of the evolution of the very first chiefdom societies, they would have likely been societies that were highly tribalistic and family based, where the big chief is the father and the little chiefs are the eldest sons. That is likely how that emerged. That's not the only way that could have emerged, because that's I think the one thing that we learn about studying the development of human sociology is that we're not cut and dry. We don't always make decisions the way that we think we've always made decisions. For example, though we've become more progressive towards women authority in modernity, there are several places in antiquity where women authority was not at all odd, nor was it, something that was not commonplace. So there's so much complexity in human history. All right, so anyway, you got these chiefs. Chief Korah, Chief Godam, Chief Amalek. These are the chiefs descended from Eliphaz in the land of Edom. These are the sons of Ada. Oh, going down. I got it. Oh no, I just did something. I got to go back. It took me all the way to 37. We don't want to go to 37 yet. 37 is next week. All right, I'm back. But we are going to have fun with 37 because we do get to talk about one of my favorite characters in the Bible. And that's Joseph. I was fascinated with Joseph. I don't have many more characters that I was fascinated by. Actually, Joseph, I was more so fascinated by the things we said about David. The more and more I read his life, it was just kind of confusing. I was fascinated by Paul. Isaiah and Ezekiel, I was fascinated by some of the things they said, but also Isaiah and Ezekiel and even Daniel were major stumbling blocks for me in my deconstruction, because a lot of the ways that mainstream Christians interpreted what Isaiah, Ezekiel, and Daniel was saying was absolutely absent and foreign from the context. And for years, I just believed that, well, that just means they can see something I can't see. And then I finally realized, oh no, they just pretending to see something I can't see. I get it now. All right, so you got all these folks, got them, get them, done did them. And these are the sons of Reuel, Esau's sons, Chief Nahath, Chief Zerah, Chief Shammah, Chief Mizah. Some of these sound like rappers. Chief Rizah. Now let me stop. Wu-Tang. These are the chiefs descended from Reuel in the land of Edom. These are the sons of Esau's wife, base math. And then these are the sons of Esau's wife, Oholibamah. And so she got Chief Jeush, Chief Jelim, Chief Korah. These are the chiefs descended from Esau's wife, Oholibamah, the daughter of Anah. And we don't, you know what? No, think about it. We see, this is interesting. We do get a rundown of Jacob's sons. I think we just got that in the chapter before. None of his sons are called chiefs in that. So maybe this is also showing a delineation, if you will, between these two lines, which again, I think that's something that has been stated here. And so maybe Esau's line for this story represents the development of chief style systems. So the question then would be, I wonder, and I'm sure we'll discover, is what then does Jacob's line represent? If Esau's line seems to be representing the development of more like chief-like systems, then what is Jacob's line supposed to be representative of, because the prophetic aspect doesn't come until after Moses. Moses is technically considered the first prophet. As a matter of fact, many of the scriptures that people use about Jesus are actually referring to Moses. Yikes. Okay, so, and that is funny, right? All right, so chiefdoms, all this stuff. Let's go to verse 20. These are the sons of Sarah the Horite, the inhabitants of the land: Lotan, Shobal, Zibeon, Anna. Anna keeps being mentioned, and Zibeon keeps mentioned as different people. All right, I'm just saying. But Dishon, Ezer, and Dishon, maybe these are twins, triplets, and Ezer got the short stick. These are the chiefs descended from the Horites, the sons of Sarah in the land of Edom. So maybe Esau is getting this chieftain system from, hanging out with the Horites. I like that. And the sons of Lotan were Hori and Hemam, and Lotan's sister was Timnah. Okay. Okay, I have to go back and look at something, because some of these names. Esau's wife, Oholibama, she's the daughter of Anna. Okay. And the granddaughter of Zibeon. But then here, all right, so basically they're giving us the lineage of Esau's wives, is what it seems like. All right, that makes sense. I had to see, because I'm like, these names are being used again. And the sons of Lotan were Hori, and yep, we read that. And these are the sons of Shobal, Alvan, Manahath, Ebal, Shepho, and Onam. And these were the sons of Zibeon, Ai, and Anna. He is the Anna who found the hot springs in the wilderness when he was pasturing the donkeys of his father Zibeon. And I don't know if that means, I'm going to assume at this moment that he's probably the first person to ever discover hot springs in the wilderness for these group of people. So he's, it's like the first person who went, whatever. It's a record here. And in actually even kind of reading the way this is written, I can almost imagine that some of these things were probably recited as songs. And these are the sons of, anyway. And these are the children of Anna, Dishon, and Oholibama, the daughter of Anna. And these are you see, I don't like redundancy. And these are the children of Anna, Dishon, and Oholibama, the daughter of Anna. You just said that, okay? You said these are the children of Anna. You don't have to come back and say, and this is the daughter of Anna. You just said that. All right. And these are the sons of Dishon, Hemdan, Eshban, Ithran, and Sharon. And these are the sons of Belan, Zavan, and Akan. And, that's probably important. It's Achan. Well, maybe it's not as important as I thought. All right, these are the sons of Dishon, Uz. Uz is important. And Aran. These are the chiefs descended from the Horites. Chief Lotan, Chief Shobal. I am not going to read all of these names. Let's go to 31. Now, these are the kings who reigned in the land of Edom before any king reigned over the sons of Israel. And bam, maybe that's that question I was asking earlier. So maybe Esau. No. Because I was about to say Esau gets the idea of chiefdoms from the Horites. And then I was like, then maybe Israel gets the idea, or Jacob gets the idea of kingdoms from the Edomites. Because there were kings in the land of Edom, but the land of Edom is the land where Esau lives, because Esau is now called Edom. And so there's kings and chiefs apparently in that land. So I don't know. Bela the son of Beor reigned in Edom, and the name of his city was Dinabah. Then Bela died. Oh, Bela died. I remember that movie. And Jobab, the son of, I'm going to call him Jobab. And Jobab, the son of Zerah of Bozrah, became king in his place. Then Jobab died, as they typically do. And Husham of the land of the Timites became king in his place. Jesus, this is boring. Then Husham died, and Hadad, the son of Bedad, who defeated Midian in the field of Moab, became king in his place. And the name of his city was Avith. Then Hadad died. Then Zamlah died. Then Shaul died. Then Baal Hanan, the son of Akbar, died. And now, here we go. We're at the end. Now, these are the names of the chiefs descended from Esau, according to their families and their localities, by their names: Chief Timnah, Chief Alba, Chief Jetheth, Chief Oholibama, Chief Elah, Chief Pinon, Chief Kines, Chief Timon, according to their settlements in the land of their profession. Now, I don't know. I grew up watching a lot of sitcoms and shows. And one thing that I begin to recognize in a lot of writings is that there would often be filler episodes, where they don't really have anything to say, but they need to kind of buy time into the next season, or, they need to kind of help the episode stretch a little longer. That's what the fuck this felt like. This felt like a filler episode because literally everything they told us in the first few verses of this chapter, they spend the whole chapter just kind of breaking that down. It's like, hey, these are the chieftains of Esau. And in case you didn't know, here's their parents, here's their parents' parents, and here's the lands that they were in. And again, here are the chieftains of Esau. But again, you can definitely kind of tell, at least from my perspective, that this definitely seems like something that was recited possibly in a song. And I think that's why some of these chapters are written and conveyed in this type of manner, is because they were written to be somewhat rehearsed or repeated. Next week, we get into chapter 37, which I'm excited about because we're going to start talking a little bit more about Joseph. The only thing we've seen so far is that he was born. But now we're going to get to talk about this miracle baby and that multicolored dream coat, or whatever the fuck they want to call it. And we'll have some fun there. But I hope you all have enjoyed this time today. These are always incredibly fun for me. But I am definitely at my time, so I'm going to cut out. If you have any thoughts, comments on this video, please be sure to share them. And also, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, hit that alert notification bell, share this video with somebody that you think may benefit from conversations like this. And all that other jazz. Check out our merch, consider financially supporting, consider volunteering, and join our community. I think that's all I have for you for now. Until next time, keep rising, stay progressive, and if you can, only if you can, stay beautiful. I'll holla.